Thursday at 3 o'clock is Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer. Sheil, now the rumor is, since we don't have you on video this time, only on the phone, the rumor is your picks have been so bad you don't want to show your face on WIP anymore.
That's right. Every week that I get an Eagles game wrong, I think there will be an additional penalty. So I think the one this week is I can't show my face. I would have had to wear a mask. It's embarrassing, but maybe we bounce back this week.
What are we looking? 2-6?
1-5.
1-5.
And it's getting to the point where at the end of the season, we might need to have a press conference to discuss if Sheil should be back in 2026.
Yeah. Well, I'll be the Dombrowski. I'll say, we'll see if he can be an elite picker next year. I don't know. I don't know about Sheil. Time will only tell. All right, Sheil, here's what I'm going to do to you. I asked Jordan Mailata, he's on with us every week, and I asked him a different version of this first question first, and I want to see how you respond to it. If I asked you, seeing what you've seen from the Eagles, to give us a reason to be optimistic, something that they are doing well, what would your response be?
Something that the Eagles are, these tricky questions, Spike, you usually give me a heads up on.
Sorry. All I asked you is literally one thing that the football team is doing well that can give us a reason to be optimistic.
To come up with something.
All right, one thing that the Eagles, I think defensively they can still cover for the most part, aside from maybe one cornerback position. So I think I had to stretch there because you know what? They do a lot of things. I do think it's important to say, they are not one of the worst teams in the NFL. They are, like, every category you look at, they are sort of mediocre. It's not where we want them to be, but they're not one of these teams that's like a complete dumpster fire. So there were things I could have told you that, all right, the pass pro is okay at times, they do. But I do think the coverage in the secondary, if Quinyon Mitchell is healthy, if you don't have to blitz Zach Vaughn as much, I still think that has generally been a strength and can be a bigger strength for this team if they get guys healthier on defense.
Just Jordan struggled a little bit as well.
That's the hardest question you've had in however many years we've been doing.
So let's go back to the offense, then we'll get to the defense. So, one thing that has been successful, we were talking about this, Ike and I, in the pre-show meeting. One thing that has been successful for the Eagles in previous years is RPO stuff offensively, and they've done some of that this year. However, one noticeable change, at least in the last few games, is that Jalen has not been running really at all. And for that kind of play to work, he needs to be a threat there. Is there anything that you see that the defense is doing that is making it more difficult for Jalen to take off and run the ball like he has in previous years?
No, not at all. I think that's one that it feels like it's more on the Eagles' end of it. I don't know if they came into this season saying, we want Jalen Hurts healthy in the playoffs. We want him to be healthy for a 17-game season, and so we're not going to run him as much, and we want to take care of his body here. But I actually think that's going to be the biggest change we see starting this weekend against the Vikings. I think they had the mini bye. They're self-scouting, and you look at it in the past, and like you said, Jalen Hurts has been a big part of the running game. I mean, he's averaging, I think, a career low in rushing yards so far this season. And, they called one early last week, and he kind of bounced it outside, and he got tackled for a loss. But I think they need to lean into the things they do well, and that is one of the things they've done well. That's one of the things that's made them hard to defend. So, yeah, I think they're going to spread it out more. I think they're going to run more RPOs, and I think they're just going to run more designed runs for Jalen Hurts, the quarterback draws, the inside runs, because even if they wanted to save him, you're at the point now where you need answers on offense, and that to me feels like the easiest change they can make.
I'm wondering, Sheil, or one of my concerns would be the offensive line and how good or not they've been this year, particularly in the run blocking game. I think once they start playing better in that aspect of the game, I think this offense will at least start to form somewhat of a better identity of what they really can be. So I guess my question to you is, how far away are we from this offensive line, playing at a level in which, we are rushing for almost 80 yards fewer than what we rushed for last year per game. That's almost hard to do.
Yeah, it's like to Spike's original question. You need something to hang your hat on. All right, even if other things aren't working, what's the one thing we feel is pretty reliable week to week? And you're absolutely right. Saquon Barkley is getting hit behind the line of scrimmage at a ridiculous rate, where a lot of these runs he doesn't have a chance. And You look at all the runs, and some of them are on the offensive line, specifically the interior, I don't think has played particularly well. And then you look at others and you say, well, the tight end, are the coaches, asking the tight end to block Abdul Carter on this run? And if Dallas Goedert gets pushed back 3 yards into the backfield and it's a tackle for loss, is that Dallas Goedert's fault or is that the coach's fault for putting him in that position? So I think schematically there are things they need to do to be less predictable, to put these guys in better positions to succeed as well. But there's no doubt. We saw it last year. We saw it, going back to 2022, that when they get the run game going, it makes everything else so easier for this team, and they just haven't gotten the run game. I mean, Saquon Barkley doesn't have a single run at 20 yards this year. Last year, he averaged one of those per game, so it is a huge, huge difference for this offense.
Chris Sims mentioned and I'll put aside to his comment about whether Jalen is allowing them to change the offense or not. But one thing he did mention is that when Nick Sirianni was in Indianapolis, he thought they did have answers and it was creative. And I went back and I looked, and he had 3 quarterbacks in 3 years. But aside from the Jacoby Brissett year, it was a pretty effective throwing offense with Andrew Luck and with Phillip Rivers. So I guess I can't really get from point A to point B with him not doing that anymore without thinking about the quarterback and why he may be designing the offense differently than he did back then.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They've had a bunch of different offensive coordinators, and at no point have we seen them do something like drastically different, where you're saying, hey, they're going under center and running play action. They're using bootlegs and getting Jalen Hurts on the move here. And so, yeah, I think that probably is a thing, that Jalen Hurts has stuff he's comfortable with. And by the way, that's not unique to him. That's it.
Sure.
A lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow, for instance, he doesn't like going under center and doing play action and turning his back to the line of scrimmage. So that is the preference for some quarterbacks. Now, I would say, you would want to get to a place where you say, hey, Jalen, I know this isn't your preference right now, but trust us. We can get, if we do some of these things, might not be comfortable right away, but it's really going to help the offense, and it's going to open up a lot of things for us. And we all want to win games here, so let's go ahead and do that. Now, the time for those conversations would have been the off season and training camp. I don't think you can overhaul everything in the middle of a season, but yeah, I think there are a lot of preferences here. There's Jalen Hurts' preferences. There's Nick Sirianni's preferences. What is Kevin Patullo calling during the course of the game, the sequencing of it? So there's I don't want to say a lot of cooks in the kitchen. It's not dissimilar to other teams, but whatever the recipe is right now, obviously it's not working.
So when I asked you to give us something that they're doing well, you sort of a half-ass said they can kind of cover okay. What is as constructed, let's say they don't add any players, but let's say, Quinyon Mitchell is playing and Jalen Carter is playing as well. Now that you've seen them for 6 games, what do you think the peak, efficiency, the peak level this defense can play at? Do you still think I remember we talked before the season, you said top 5. Do you still think it could be that if they don't make any significant changes from a personnel standpoint?
Yeah, I would probably bump that down a little bit, but I would say top 10. I think you look at teams in the NFL, and not every team is like, oh, we love all of our cornerbacks. That's rare. Usually you have someone out there where you're like, all right, we got to get by with this player at one of the cornerback positions. So if Quinyon Mitchell's healthy, if Cooper DeJean's healthy, it was like 2 weeks ago where it felt like these were 2 of the best defensive backs in the entire NFL. And I don't think they've gotten worse significantly. So I still trust those guys. I think Bond and Campbell, you still could have the 2 best cover linebacker, the best linebacker duo in terms of coverage in the NFL. My concern right now is with the pass rush in a big way. I think they've got 9 sacks in 6 games, and it's not like they're impacting the quarterback a lot. And what Vic Fangio is telling us is that he doesn't necessarily trust the pass rush because he's blitzing way more than he did last year. And so that's the concern to me, where I came into the season saying, hey, the pass rush could still be pretty good. Maybe a guy like Jalen Hunt or Nolan Smith emerges, maybe Moro Ojimo steps in and plays a bigger role and is really good. And you kind of haven't seen those things happen. Now, Jalen Carter's injury is a big factor there because he makes everyone's life easier. But, yeah, I think if Carter gets healthy, we could still be talking about this as a very good defense the rest of the way.
So, we mentioned earlier your record as far as predictions this year is 1-5. It's I had somebody else on yesterday, and I said, "Give me one good thing about Sheil Kapadia's predictions," and they couldn't come up with anything. So Eagles Vikings on Sunday. Give it to us.
All right. So I was walking around Philadelphia today, and I saw the faces of my fellow citizens, and I want to do everyone a solid here. So because my picks have been so bad, I feel like you will boo me if I pick the Eagles. And so I'm going to go the other way here.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
And pick the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to do everyone a favor. Listen, a few weeks ago I said I'm not picking against the Eagles until they lose. Well, now I'm going the other way. I'm not picking the Eagles until they win, because there's a this was so ugly last Thursday night that I have to say I can't pick them to win this football game. So I think Brian Flores presents a lot of challenges, and I just need to see the Eagles prove it to me that they've got some answers. So I will go Minnesota Vikings 23, Eagles 20 in this game.
Well, Sheil, you should know that me picking against the Eagles last year ended up spurring a winning streak and ended up as a Super Bowl. I had to pick again. I ended up having to pick against them every week. Yep. So the thing here, though, is if the Eagles win now, you're going to have to pick against them.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I will take one for the team, and I'll be on video, and you can post a clip of me picking against the Eagles all the way to the Super Bowl, just because I love the Eagles fans so much.
There you go. All right, there you go. Sheil Kapadia, get all his work on The Ringer and the Ringer Philly Special podcast as well. Thank you, Sheil.
Talk to you guys next week.
There he is, Sheil Kapadia.